this is the single deepest idea in all of Torah. I mean, there's infinite ideas and infinite depth, but the idea which so many things, so many of the big themes and big questions of life, the universe, and everything, and all of Kabbalah, all of Chassidus are all built around this model. It's the model called Soid HaNesirah, which is the soaring, to soar something in half. Everyone's seen that the circus act where you saw the woman in half. So this is the Kabbalistic source for that idea. And hands up if you've learned about the Nesirah before. Does anyone know what the Nesirah is about? So it's fascinating to me that this is not better known. Um, I got one of my favorite messages of all time from my wife yesterday that said, I have one son who's particularly deep, and from I held him in my arms, I was like, he's the neshama of the family. So my wife said yesterday, someone called at 7:30 in the morning and to go call and tell Tati that he learned the Kabbalistic secret of the Nasir and he was learning it all morning. And he was moiridic, he was glowing. So when your 16-year-old son is learning Kabbalah in yeshiva and he's glowing, you're doing something good in the world. By Shem's doing good of you, doing good for you. So I want to go through this because all of relationships is in here and all of trauma is in here. And this is weeks of work. And I'm not starting this. I know I was still going through the Sulam Aliyah. And I'm really doing this for me because this is my preparation. So thanks for coming to my preparation sessions. I was working on the retreat today. And this is really what I wanted as the core teaching of the retreat. And you're going to see it's not really in there in the end because it's too deep and I couldn't work out where to put it in. So it's going to be hinted to at the retreat. But I want to explore this because this is the main secret of what Rosh Hashanah is about and Yom Kippur is about and Sukkot is about and Shmini Atzeres is about, number one. Like it's literally about one thing and it's about something called the Nesirah. And the Nesirah is also the secret of Acher Ba'acher and Panim B'Panim. It's the creation of Eve when Hashem put Adam to sleep and then took a rib out of Adam and then made Eve from it. So that idea of soaring off, that this is the secret of that they were originally together as one being. You ever heard that they were back to back at the beginning of creation? They were back to back, and then Hashem puts Adam to sleep, and then creates the woman, and he creates the woman by cutting her off from the man. And that cutting off is called the Nesirah. Nesirah means soaring off. It's a bit of a crude, dramatic word. He soared. It's not very pleasant, is it? It's not very mystical sounding. But this is the basis of all of darkness in the world and basis of all of trauma in the world. And it's a very deep thing why for Eve to be created, Adam has to be put to sleep. And this is the secrets of the rise of the Shekhinah and feminism in our generation and all psychological transformation. This is the secret as well. It's the secret of why bad things happen to good people. And it's fundamentally the secret of what is Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Sukkot about. They're not really, Kabbalistically, they're all one movement without any real distinctions between them. I mean, and let me clarify that. Absolutely, there's distinctions between each one, but it's all, 4 or 5 steps in one dance. And the dance is the creation of the entity of Klal Yisrael, of the Shekhinah, of our neshama, of the feminine energy as a separate, individuated elements from the source, from Hashem, so that she can turn to Hashem in her light and in her power, and through an act of intimacy, be a channel for all of the blessing of the world. So it is the secret of the awakening of the feminine energy, the awakening of the individual identity, the awakening is ours separate from Hashem, which is Hashem wants us to be, in order that we can then turn to Hashem and be in a relationship with Hashem. Hashem is not the kind of guy that wants a pretty girlfriend without any depth, right? So to speak. Lahavdil. Hashem wants an extraordinary woman of extraordinary depth, so much so that he wants her to step into a light before she's ready in the relationship. And we are the wife and we are the feminine energy and we are the Shekhinah. But she has to build herself. She has to build herself into a true light and power to be worthy of that connection. So the days of Rosh Hashanah, which is the Yom Adin, and then the Aseret Yemei Tshuva, the 10 days of Tshuva, and then Yom Kippur, these are all a process of her being asleep and unconscious and then her having to be have a rude awakening. The rude awakening is on Judgment Day on Rosh Hashanah, and that's when she's going to get disconnected from her source, and it's going to be a time of tremendous struggle and din and not negative energy, but having to face the reality of of who she is and where she's fallen, in order that she can find it through the shofar, find her inner will, find her strength, find her talents, to say, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight for myself and build myself. The period of Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur is called by the Mekubalim Binyan Malchus. Binyan Malchus, which means the construction of the feminine energy. The person has to make themselves anew. These are all, you can hear all the retreat ideas are swimming around in my head. So these are the kind of models that we're exploring, that we have to build ourselves anew. And trauma is a time of todima, domita, it's called. All trauma, all challenges in our life are times when Hashem goes to sleep. And that means we lose our light, we lose our energy, we lose our connection, we feel abandoned. And we feel like this woman who's ultimately abandoned. I've told you one of the movies I loved very much is a Bertolucci movie. Do not go and see this movie. Do not go and see this movie. Do not go and see this movie. I'm giving you the insights so you don't have to see this movie. But there's something, it was, some part of it was like beautifully made and some part of it was like badly made. It was a Bertolucci movie. Um, the music was extraordinary. Um, but it was about these, a man and a woman, and these two lovers, and they were traveling across Africa together. I've told you some of this before, and their relationship has kind of collapsed, but they're just kind of going through life unconsciously. I mean, this story is like just textbook Nesirah. Like it's literally like they made a movie. You see, by the goyim, they like have like these ideas for a story, and it speaks to them because it's an archetypal. There's an archetypal depth in it, right? So it's beautiful. It's just like a beautiful Bertolucci is a creator. He's like, wow, the struggle of a man and woman that not are connected. What happens in the story is, in brief, he dies halfway through the story, and he abandons her there in the middle of Africa, and then she gets taken by these tribes, and she goes through this awful journey, but then she finds herself and she finds her will and she finds her purpose to live. And then she returns to where they began. And this is like such a deep Kabbalistic archetype, which is the woman has to fall. She has to lose the husband. She has to lose the power that was supporting her, for her to be able to awaken to the fact that she's going to fight for herself. And she's going to explore herself and explore her body and her heart and her soul and her consciousness until she's ready to then step back into her power. Um, and that's why the Shekhinah gets sent into Gullus. The Shekhinah gets sent into exile. If we can't be in a relationship with Hashem when we're representing our light, and we get caught in our fear and our lashon hara and our matishema and our anger and our ego, individually and collectively, then Hashem basically pulls himself out. Hashem disappears. His stalkus Shekhinah, Hashem moves up out into the world. Why does Hashem do that? Because he wants us to fall. Why does he want us to fall? Because when we fall, then we're going to start to fight for ourselves. We're going to start to hit the ground, and we're going to start to see the darkness we've created, and we're going to take responsibility for ourselves. And then we're going to rise up and reconstruct ourselves in the divine image. It's only through that we can return to having a relationship with Hashem. So this is an archetype in every movie, in every hero's journey and hero quest. And this is all of our trauma. In a terrible moment of life, Hashem seems to abandon us, and then we suffer difficult things and we totally collapse, right? We get overwhelmed, and then we struggle. We get lost in Africa. We get lost in the darkness of our life. And then the shofar blows, and the shofar blow is the calling of us home. Stand up, stand into your light, stand tall. Now we have to get busy of transforming our lives and finding our voice and working through our stuff and working through our blocks. And all of this is a preparation that when you're truly in your light, when you're truly in your power, then we turn back to Hashem, and that's called face to face. Then we are once again standing in our own land and power, which is very attractive to Hashem, because he deserves a woman who's truly in her own land and power. And then you can have a relationship, and then you can meet eye to eye, then you can meet face to face. So this is the process of Rosh Hashanah and the process of Nesirah. Nesirah means is a kind of a divorce. It's a kind of a soaring. It's a kind of uncoupling. It's when a relationship is on automatic pilot. When any relationship is on automatic pilot, then you have to be willing to say if you want to continue or you don't want to continue. Something we were talking about a couple of days ago, right? If you want it to continue, then you can't both be unconscious. You both have to step into your light and make some strong decisions. And if not, so then let it go. It's a very difficult thing. So Rosh Hashanah is Judgment Day, which is judgment on us. It's a judgment on us living unconsciously in our relationship to Source. There's certain Kabbalistic, we've talked about this, the idea of mm, the idea of what you pray for on Rosh Hashanah, and where it's the day you pray at all, you don't really pray. The Yossi Emes says you really pray for Devakus. We'll talk about that a little. But technically, do you pray on Rosh Hashanah? Yes, you do. And the first day you should pray for the spiritual things, and the second day you pray for more practical things. There's certain Kabbalistic things that happen on those days. If you want to focus, obviously you can pray to Hashem anytime, and some people can only connect to Hashem with all their heart when they pray for personal things. So you absolutely should. So you have a real and authentic, meaningful prayer. But for those a little bit more spiritual sensitive, the first day they're praying for spiritual development, and the second day they're praying for the food and the panasa and the relationships and the house and the clothes and the practical things we need. So the spiritual needs on the first day and the physical needs on the second day. But the Kabbalists and the Hasidic masters, who on a deeper level, they don't even, of course, it's a time of prayer, but on a deeper level, it's a time to release everything that's blocking you to commit to a life of Devakus. That's the core of it. To release every single thing that's blocking you to step into a life of Devakus. Because Devakus is the Ikka, where Devakus is Kesha, where there's Kesha, there's Shefa, where there's connection, then there's flow. So the Kabbalists talk about this, that really it's about the reconstructing of your own mind. Rosh Hashanah, Binyan and Malchus means the reconstruction of your own mind. And that begins on Rosh Hashanah and it goes through Yesevas Yimei Tshuva, all the 10 Sfirot over the 10 days. Heta and Chochmah on the first 2 days, which is the most important construction of your mind. And then after that, you go all the way through to Yesod and Malchus on Erev Yom Kippur. And then our whole consciousness gets elevated to the car wash on Yom Kippur to cleanse us of everything that we've worked through for the 10 days before. And then she's cleansed. So if you will, like we do the work, the psychological reconstruction is what Rosh Hashanah and the says you made tshuva are. And then when we've cleaned off ourselves all internally and transformed ourselves, then we lift ourselves up to the light on Yom Kippur, and when we cleanse ourselves of all the dross of everything we've been carrying and everything we've let go of. So then we can step into joy and love of Sukkot. And finally, after the end of Sukkot and Shemini Atzeret, is literally the act of intimacy. They come together. And when there's an act of intimacy, then they're upon them face to face. And then the light flows through the masculine to the feminine. What does that mean? That means that the Shefa in the act of intimacy that we have on Simchas Torah, on Shemini Atzeret, in the act of intimacy, then all the light and energy flows through us into the world for the rest of the year. Yeah, that's it. That's in the class. Bye. I'm tired. That's all I feel I can give you right now. So that's an introduction of what we're doing. And when you understand these, every single thing you do on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Yesevas Yimei Tshuva and Sukkot and the Sukkah itself and the Daled Minim and the Simchas Torah, every single thing is another part of that process, another part of where those two are in the relationship and what's energetically moving around at different times. For her to be distanced from him so she will own her stuff, she will find her voice, she will construct herself, and then that she can put on her clothes and then prepare herself to return to her husband, but now with joy and love, and reconstruct herself emotionally with joy and love, so they can step into intimacy, so they can open up channels so then the chef and abundance can flow to all of the world. That's the Sod and Nesirah, and that's all trauma. It's every single relationship. It's every challenge you ever gone through in your life. It's the construction and purpose of reality. So it's a very, very deep subject that really covers everything. We should do a class on it one day. So this is an introduction. Any comments or questions so far as I pause for a drink? No. Okay, did you all stop asking questions, or maybe you're all like watching something on YouTube where you look up? So fine, we'll go on then. It goes like this. I want to read from the Sif Sechein. It's a nice and easy way to give this over. I have some more advanced texts. Maybe next year we'll do some more advanced texts, and the kids vary on this. So this is the Sifsei Chen on the Yamim Noraim, and there's chapter number, is it 3? What are they going to call it? Agdama Gimel, the third introduction. So the chapter here is called Aseres Yamim, the 10 days. It's nice lighting. Thanks, Michael Malik, for the dramatic lighting. So start simple. It's going to get deeper. And this is Sifsei doesn't gives the basics of the Kabbalah. Maybe we'll go a little bit deeper depending on how we feel and how much. And my energy is extremely low, so you'll forgive me if I'm mumbling a little bit more than I used to, having to force myself to speak out loud right now. Aseres Yamim, Hayamim. Zeh Hayam Techilas Maasecha Zikron Liyam Rishon. So we begin by saying this. Zeh Hayam, this is Chazal, Techilas Maasecha, which is the beginning of your creation, Hashem. Zikron Liyam Rishon. It's a memory for the first day. So Zeh Hayam, this Rosh Hashanah, is the beginning of you making the world now. It's a memory of the first day ever of creation. Yom Rosh Hashanah Niva Adam Rishon Shehu Ikar Olam. Rosh Hashanah is not the beginning of physical creation. Well, that's even a discussion about Nisan, so let's keep it focused. Rosh Hashanah is not the day when Hashem created the world. Rosh Hashanah is the day when Hashem created Adam and Eve. That's the secret. We all know that. We don't need to drush on that. Yom Rosh Hashanah Niva Adam Rishon Shehu Ikar Olam. So there's the creation of us. We're being created. And Kabbalistically, well, he'll say it here in a simple way, Ovachol Shana V'Shana, Kashem Megia Hayam Hazeh Nikra Yam Hazikaron. This day is called the day of remembrance. It's the day of remembrance. It's the day of remembrance to the creation of man. Man is the original Zachar. How's this for Josh? Yam Hazikaron, the day of the masculine. Zachor. So this is the day of creation. So it's not just a remembrance of what happened then. It means that we are being reconstructed today. This is the creation. We are going to self-create ourselves today. The line I'm going to say along the retreat. We're returning to the same place and we're going to be recreating ourselves. It's worthwhile understanding what is the process of the creation of the world and the creation of us. This Boyden Adam Rishon, and we have to meditate in the creation of the first human consciousness. Adam, just to be clear, I'm assuming this is obvious to you. We are all Adam. We are all Eve. Adam and Eve, first of all, is one consciousness with a masculine and feminine energy to it, number one. So Adam and Eve are really all of human consciousness, just divided into the masculine souls and the feminine souls. And really, it's one and the same soul, just like a chassan and a kala, bride and a groom, a married couple, are really one soul that's divided into two. But they come together in one flesh. So what that means is internally they are one soul, but externally they present as separate entities. And then intimacy is the returning physically to that which is true energetically and spiritually. That makes sense? Great. So what's actually happening here is Adam and Eve are really one soul, one being in one entity. And we're in the day and energy of the creation of them, and we are now going to create ourselves like them. So again, this is the depth of the work of Rosh Hashanah, is the recreation of self. The recreation of self. And just like it's literally the creation of us, deeper than that, it's the creation of the spiritual Adam and Eve. What is the spiritual Adam and Eve? Does anyone know the answer to that question?
You mean like Adam Kadmon?
Aha, I see what you did then. No, but it makes sense that you would say that. And I guess ultimately that is true. But Adam Kadmon is a very high world, higher than Atzilus. But before we get, so there's a truth to what you're saying there. But archetypically in Kabbalah, before we refer to that place, there's something called the place which is known as the Bechina of Adam and Chava, the Bechina of the masculine and feminine energy. Now, Kabbalistically, everything is Akbalot. So that's true about Adam Kadmon. It's true about every world has a representative of this. But there's a main reference point. Does anyone know what that would be?
The
Anyone know?
apple?
Aha, there we go. So this is something called Zer and Pin and Nook. So this is the classic words. Now, I'm not very good at using these whiteboards, but I give a class each week online, so you'd figure I'd learn it eventually. Great. Here we go. There's you. It's a nice picture of you. Exactly. So we're all down here in the Olam Shefel, and I'm here in Miami. This is how I draw on this machine. It's really good, huh? Says Miami. Got the handwriting of a doctor. Great. So this is called the world of Asiya. And above the world of Asiya is the world of Yetzirah, where the angels are. And above the world of Yetzirah is the world of Bria. And above the world of Bria is the world of the divine Spirit. So this is called the world of, wish someone could write this with you, and then you could kind of share things. So this is called Atsilis. Someone write Atsilis in the box for those that know what it is. So everybody knows what that is. Okay. So great. It goes like that. Number one. Now, the world of Atsilis is split. Wow. You go, girl. The world of Atsilis is split into 5 different sections. These are called Patsufim. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, just to not confuse everybody, okay, we're really making a mess of this, but a quality mess. Okay, so it goes like this. This is where we are, the physical world. This is called the seer. And then these are fields of more and more subtle, higher frequency energy, which allows the lower dense worlds to come into existence. So here's the physical world, here's the angelic world, and here's the root spiritual world of where the souls are created and the lower letters. And here's the world of Atsilis. Now, Atsilis, like all worlds, is divided into 5. But the main thing we have to understand is this is called, so there's a way for me to do this. I'm doing it like this. Great. This is called Malchus. Malchus. And this is called, you just have to learn to do it fast enough. This is called Zer. You do it like that. Zer and Pin. You will say that Malchus and Zer and Pin. Zer and Pin is known as the Zachar, is known as Adam. Malchus is known as the feminine. And this is the masculine energy of this world and the feminine energy of this world. And when these two unite, when these two come together and unite, then his energy and abundance and light flows into her. And she's really the soul of all the lower worlds. She's the Em Kol Chai. This is the mother, and this is the father, and she takes care of all the lower worlds. So let's say in our world below right now, we want more blessing, we want more peace, we want more so all of that is up here, let's say with Zer and Pin, or really higher. So if he is in a place of connection with Malchus, then divine light and energy flows down her into the world. What's in her is what comes into the world. So the father goes out, works from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night and makes millions of dollars. Do the kids have clothes? Do the kids have food? What's the answer? No, not necessarily. Not until the father gives it all to the mother. When the father gives over the chef in abundance to the mother, to the Malchus, then she can pass that out to make all the food and all the clothes. But when they are not talking, when they're not connected, when there's no relationship between them, then the shefa and the blessing that he has, Zeranpin has, doesn't come down to Malchus, and they can't come down to the low worlds. So when we're in a time of darkness, when we're in a time of concealment, like, we have been in some ways since October 7th, not exactly. We've also had, tremendous breakthroughs and fascinating things happen. But generally, when we're in a time of darkness, that means there's not a spiritual alignment between these two. And they're not in a place of face to face, of love and connection. They're in a place of acha ba'acha, back to back. That means we are getting the minimum energy that we need from the masculine into the feminine, but the feminine is depleted. She's working too hard, and she doesn't have all the resources of blessing that we have below. So this is really the basis of Kabbalah. I mean, the basis of Kabbalah is Sfirat and Elamet and all these things, v'chulu v'chulu. But when you get the basics out of the way, all of Kabbalah becomes about what is the flow at any moment and how do we shift the flow of any moment. That's basically what the whole thing's about. And when we do mitzvahs, how does that open flow? When we do avevas, how does that cut up flow? And the core of it is about these two dynamics. This is Adam and this is Chava. Welcome to Elevations Intro to Kabbalah 102. Is that what happens after 101? It's 102. I've never been in America. I don't know what they call it. So up here is Bina, up here is Chochmah, up here is Keta, up here goes higher and higher, Adam Kadman and the Ora and stuff. But this place is really the most critical place. If you were to do it this way, it's like all the higher spiritual worlds and all their abundance and all their infinite light and energy, which just would elevate the whole of the world to light of Mashiach. That's all above Zer Anpin, more or less. And all the physical world and its control and its lacking and its challenges, they're all from here and below. Does that make sense so far? So the whole state of reality is determined by and large, of course, there's many other factors, but in the most critical way by the relationship between these two. And the critical question you're asking is, are they in the place of alignment face to face, or are they turning around back to back? Back to back means there's always chef and flow, because if there wasn't chef and flow, we simply would not be able to exist. There's always something coming in. Even in Auschwitz, there was, they were alive, there was oxygen, they were getting one drop of bed every 2 weeks. So that's a perfect example. It can be in ultimate darkness, but Hashem is still choosing our existence. So this is called, Ezer and Pin is called Adam. And Malchus is called Chava, is called Eve. And that's why we've talked about this before, that Adam and Eve, Chava, Adam is literally the word Adam. That's why men speak less than women. We say many times that women speak more than men, because Chava means expression, Lila, Lila, Chava Das. And that's why you understand Kabbalistically. Dam means that there's a lot of infinite energy, but it's silence. Doimem, it's silence, it's unexpressed. That means the whole Alma des Kasya, all of the energy is there, all the light is there, all the chef is there, but it's silent, it's not revealed, it's not coming to expression into the world. But Malchus is Chava. That means if the Malchus is the power that if you could tap her into Zer Anpin, then all the divine light of Hashem would be revealed and experienced by us in the Tachton and by us in the lower world. Fine. So when we talk about, now this is what he's saying, there's Adam and there's Eve. There's all men and all women and all masculine energy, all feminine energy. And the way we are constructed down here, so Hashem in the Garden of Eden, assuming that means a physical man and a physical woman. Some ways it does, in some ways it doesn't. But the personality that we know them, then that itself is an expression of something that was energetically happening up here in the root of the world. And just so you all understand how reality works, when we talk about Hashem making the world, that usually means this below. That usually means Malchus coming in here. Bereshis bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, when Hashem was making the heavens and the earth, the heavens means here, and the earth means here. So at the beginning of Hashem making the heavens and the earth, that doesn't actually say in the beginning Hashem made the heaven and the earth. That's a misnomer, which is not an accurate translation. The Torah never says in the beginning Hashem made the heaven and the earth. It says in the beginning of Hashem's making the heaven and the earth, which means all of this kind of pre-existed that state. There was a reality, there were energies, there was infrastructure before Hashem created the man and the woman and the Garden of the Eden, etc. Mazel tov, we have 190 people, students coming to the retreat. That just came up on my screen. It's really a straight up miracle. Baruch Hashem. So with that in mind, is everyone following so far? So we stop for questions. If I close the whiteboard, will I lose it forever? Guess we're about to find out. Questions? No, everyone stopped asking questions because we have a very silent group. Wonder if they noticed if I didn't even turn up. Dove's playing team question asker. Yes, Dove, and then Zita.
I just wanted someone to speak. I missed a little bit earlier. You were saying that Rosh Hashanah is Keser and Chachma.
I didn't say, oh, sorry. Wow, you just went all the way
You,
back there. Sure. In the 10
yeah.
days, in the 10, okay, so let's go back. Oh no, are we going to lose it? We're about to find out. Existing whiteboard. There you go. I had the option. And fantastic. Well done, Zoom. So, what we're going to do during the 10 days, does anyone see Malchus? So, Malchus also divides up into 10. Malchus has 10 parts. 10 parts is the 10 Sefirot of Malchus. Have you got that? And Malchus is going to be reconstructed. That means women are a mess. I have to tell you, women are a mess. That's what we're seeing in Kabbalah. And men are perfect. They're the light. They're the energy. They're abundance. Women are broken and shattered and imperfect. And there's a truth to that in Bechinas, but not in actual reality, because the men down here were also Bechina of being messed up as well. In absolute archetypal form, Hashem is the pure masculine energy, and Klal Yisrael, and the Shekhinah, is the pure feminine energy. Right? Great. But there's subtleties here. The woman, meaning all of us, meaning all of reality, is going to be reconstructed. The capacity to receive. The simple principle of all of Kabbalah is that the light exists perfect and abundant. The problem is with the vessel. And if we make the vessel, Hashem is always ready to share light, and the light is already good. But we have to create a vessel that's able to receive the blessing and abundance Hashem wants to give us. And all of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Sukkot is the rebuilding, the conscious rebuilding of the vessel in order to receive a year of all the blessing that we want to receive. That's it. Now, if we reconstruct the binyan of Malchus, the reconstructing of Malchus, how do we do that? Malchus has 10 levels. She has Keta, Chochmah, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzes, Chod, Yesod, Malchus. We are going to, for the 10 days, mindfully reconstruct each of those 10 spherot. Psychologically, when we do tshuva during the 10 days and we do tshuva in Rosh Hashanah, the tshuva ila'a, then we construct our whole capacity to receive. So that's why some of the Kabbalists and Hasidic masters say the essence of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, is not really davening for things. Of course, we should daven. Hashem wants us to daven, but simply speaking, it's about rebuilding ourselves and reconstructing our essence so that we're ready to receive the blessing Hashem absolutely wants to give us for the rest of the year. You don't have to. Again, and please don't take me literally. You should pray with all your heart for whatever you need. But the mystics actually say explicitly that you don't have to pray for anything. If you could just clear the channels, Hashem will flood you with it. Hashem knows what you need, really. He understands even better than you do. If you could clear the channels, clear all the blocks, then all the energy will flow through. So Kabbalistic, if the problem was with the channels, the problem was with the vessels. That's all the feminine energy. So the 10 days from Rosh Hashanah all the way to Yom Kippur, each of them is one of the 10 sefirot that needs realignment during that time. So, Dov, the first 2 days is Keta and Chochmah. Gotcha? Gotcha. Ziti, you had a question?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to ask two questions actually. First off was when you have first Malchus there on pin. What did you say comes above the three that go above it?
Then there's Bina and Chochmah and Keta.
Okay, and then my second.
Sorry, I wasn't consistent in the language of Patsufim. So, alternatively, in Patsufim, it's called Abba Ima, Abba Nima. So if one is called the Zer and Pin, which is the masculine, and below that is the feminine, then above that is actually called Abba Ve'ima, which is the mother and the father.
And then the last one.
And then that's called sometimes it's called the great grandfather. Or it's called Keter as well. It depends whether it's the language you can use in the language of Sfirat, or you could use the language of Patsufim. There's lots of different kinuyim ways to call it. But it's basically the same five that you break down all the worlds with. It's the same model. It's just at different terms. Okay, what was the second question you're asking, Zita?
So the second question is it that we have to make a bigger channel or vessel, I mean, or is it that we have to like clean out our vessel so that there's something?
Same thing.
Same thing. It doesn't make a difference, you're saying? Because to me, there is a difference between the two. One is you do have a vessel, but there's a lot of junk in there. Sur Meirah, get rid of all the junk so that you have space.
What's the second one?
The second one is that you make a larger vessel.
I mean, that makes sense if you're in the kitchen, but now practically speaking, you're the vessel, okay? So you have a neshama, and that's what the neshama is waiting to bring through Hashem's light. But all your fear and your doubt, your pain, your trauma, and those things that you carry, that needs to be cleared out. So if you clear out your heart and you give yourself over to Malchus Hashem, and you give over your life and you're carrying 8 blocks of issues, that's clearing the vessel to bring through the light. How would you make a bigger vessel?
How would you make a bigger vessel?
I stumped you because you can't. Right. That's what I mean. Like in the kitchen, you get a bigger pot, right? So here we would say like, I don't know, bigger vessels, you'd be a different soul. Some souls are bigger souls. Tzaddikim are bigger than us. But, I think you make a bigger vessel with more yearning, with more prayer. Maybe that's how you make a bigger vessel, right? So one is like you're pure and you're open, you're clean. You've done tshuva, tshuva ila'a, and you're open to a seif. And maybe now you have the more intention and the more, tzedakah and the more mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim, then the more you're really opening up the channel bigger and bigger. That's probably the answer. There you go. We found it together.
But what about breaking the smaller vessel and now making a larger one?
Yeah, so I think we're getting lost in the parable here. Let's just focus on the fact that you want to clear your channels and you want to open yourself up. That's what we want. That's what we get to. Great. Eliza?
Yes, I do have a question, but I want to comment on that. When you clear out all the stuff inside of you, you become the bigger vessel because there's space. There wasn't any space in you because it's cluttered. It's cluttered. So, you become a bigger vessel. You become the vessel that you are, but you're not the vessel that you are.
So you could use lashon becoming a bigger vessel, or you could use the lashon of saying, I purified the blocks of my vessel, so I become the blessing I was. I think we get it. Good. Okay. So that's one is that. That's the first one I was going to say it as well. I like my second answer better. The more mitzvahs that you do and the more tefillah that you daven with, then you really are becoming something greater. That's really channeling something much greater, Phil.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so you said that, the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that we work on the Sefirot. Each day is... How do you actually do that? Do you meditate on it?
I appreciate the classic Chava question. How do I do that? It's not for today's discussion. Going on. Okay, great. How you do it is all the things we said before, tshuva and tikkun midas and davening and all those wonderful things. So here we go. Here we come back to the beginning. In yourself. This is the day when Hashem created Adam and Eve. Is the day where we're going to be created, but it's really we are going to be self-created. And just like Adam and Eve were created above, where in Zer and Pin and Malchus, and they're created together and separate, we're going to create that within ourselves. Great, wonderful. And now one step further. In the Kitvei Ari says that on the day, energetically, spiritually, of Rosh Hashanah, we default back energetically to how we were at the beginning of creation. So after literally a year of a cycle, Adam and Eve come back to being back to back. They return to being energetically not aligned. And that's how the year begins each year, so that we will begin a new repetition of a cycle, of a spiral, to recreate ourselves. And creation always means ratzon, intention. There's no creation without intention. So Hashem puts us back in the state of disconnect and says, now we're going to begin connection. And part of Yom HaTeruah, the day of the shofar blowing, Yom HaTeruah, Teruah is actually Lashon Ra'ava, which means will. It means the day of will. It's a very beautiful idea that Rosh Hashanah really means the day of will. Even deeper, it means the day of awakened will. It's the day when I awaken my will to be in the image of the divine, to take responsibility for myself and my life and the people around me and the world, to align with the divine. And that's what I'm going to be. And to the degree that I do that work, the turning of myself around back to source is the degree I'm going to open up all the blessing and all the light for the year to come. If you can align with yourself and the source, everything you need for the world will come, will flow through you. To understand the process of the creation of the world, you have to understand how Adam was created. Adam and Eve, what we learn about in the Chumash and the Torah, they are built on the same map, the same core structure of the higher worlds. Higher worlds in this context means Zer and Pin and Malchus. Adam and everything that happens to us in the lower world between husband and wife. This is everything we need to know about the spiritual worlds is embodied, is mislabesh, is imprinted in our psychology of masculine and feminine energy. So here's how the Nesirah works. In the Gemara and Brachos. When Adam and Eve was created, they were created with their backs joined together. Now, this is not a literal physical expression, but even when Adam and Eve was created, it wasn't yet physical as we know it. So these are spiritual, energetic models of energetic relationships. So Adam and Eve, when I first heard this as a teenager, I was like, wow, that's so weird. How would they walk and how would they feed each other? Does one has a spoon back? If his wife's lighting Shabbos candles, can a husband not go off to shul? Do they wear the same clothes, but it was designed really weirdly or poorly? So you have to get out of reading this stuff like a 5-year-old kid or a 40-year-old adult in 2025. And we have to talk about that. This is talking like you have to think energetically, spiritually. What are the secrets this is speaking to? And it's very profound, very beautiful. Okay, we're mechubrim zeh lezeh, keish echad im shnei panim b'gav echad, like a person with two different faces but one back. And the gav echad is a big Kabbalistic secret. Gav echad is how you protect the person from negative energies, from the influence of negative energies. The beginning of the creation of the world, when creation of the world goes back to what happened at the beginning of the year, it's a day of din. It's a day of din. And din means negative energies are abound. And back to back is the posture that a person has when back to back is the posture that a person has when you need to energetically protect yourself. It's so interesting because halakhically, when you're a Torah Jew, there's a very beautiful sensitivity, which is, can I use this term? Is it going to be seen as gross and abrupt? I hope we're all adults who can handle this. Making out in public. So when I was a kid, guys and girls walk down the street and they're hand in hand and they don't wear clothes anyway, and they're making out in public. And it's just kind of like everything's right there. When people make out in public, what do people around them do? They look, right? It's just one of those things. And this energy is so dark and it's so intense. First of all, a Torah couple is not really supposed to touch in public. And they certainly don't show signs of intimacy. They show caring and respect. But the intimacy, such as a kiss or a hug, is something which is very personal. It's something that is protected. And without saying more than a person can imagine, even more extreme versions of that, when a couple are expressing depth of intimacy, then the world wants to look. And not in a healthy way, not in a good way. You're trying to steal something that isn't yours. You're trying to be in on something that you have no connection to. So there's this idea that you don't show the depth of a connection where there's others watching. So this is a very deep idea, energetically, Kabbalistically. At the beginning of the world, there were tremendous negative energies in the world because there was no human being yet to energetically clear the world. And therefore, there were dark forces and energy around. And if there's dark forces and energies around, then they want to protect themselves. And the way you protect yourself is back to back. Does anyone guess why you protect yourself back to back?
Because then you are able to defend on each side. Because like if you're back to back, like let's say a battle, right? Like you're back to back, one side is facing that group and the other side is facing the other group, and your back is both covered.
So, well, first of all, great. Exactly. And let's take that a step further. What's the implication of that about the back?
Is that it's more sensitive, more vulnerable.
There you go. And Baruch says here they can backstab you. What does the word backstab imply?
Treachery.
Yeah, but what does it really imply? Why does no one front
Dependency.
stab you? Ever been front? You should never be front stabbed. You should never be backstabbed. But why is there a Lashon called backstab? Why is there not a language called front stab?
Because you can't see behind you?
Because you can't see behind you. Because the word for seeing is the word panim, face, essence, panemius, expression. You're vulnerable to the side of you that can't see what's there. Backstab, betrayal. What does it mean, betrayal energetically? It means people can do something when they can't see you. Because if they could see you, they couldn't do it. They wouldn't do it in front of you. People wouldn't do in front of you what they do behind you. What does that imply? That the behind you is there's no consciousness there, there's no awareness there. So the dark forces like the back. That's why Kabbalistically, the back is the side of excretion, because it's all associated with negative energies. It's not associated with the front. And it's not a coincidence, not just that you can see from the front, but someone can see you. If someone looks at your back, they don't know if you're smiling or sad or angry. They don't know, but you see the front of someone, you see the essence. When you see the essence, you're much less likely to backstab, because back is what I can get away where there's no consciousness. So we'll go through this more and more over time. You'll understand the principles more. But this posture of being back to back was a protective mechanism to cover their backs. To cover their backs. There you go. Isn't language a fascinating thing? Oh, to cover their backs. I've got your back covered. Isn't that interesting? It's super interesting. Back covers means I'm not going to let someone hurt you. So you see how this language is embedded in. So literally Hashem covered their backs. He made sure that the front side was facing out and they were back to back. And this is a statement about their disconnection, but it's also a statement about in their state of disconnection to make sure that no forces can take advantage of them. It's fine. We're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. So Amu Chachmein Zechon Lebracha, She'adam Avisha Niva B'Yachid M'Chava B'Chubim Zeh Lezeh Ki'ish Echad, like one person with two different faces and one back. Va'achachach appeal now. So that's how they were created. So there's two implications of this creation I want you to have clear. Number one is that back to back means they're not facing each other. This is a couple that lives together, but haven't been into each other for a long time. This was us keeping mitzvahs, but not really connected to Hashem, or not even caring if there's Hashem or mitzvahs or anything. Hashem is literally giving us food and giving us abundance and putting clothes on our back, right? And looking after us in the world, but we're not really aware of him. We're not thanking him. We're not praying to him, right? And when we're not aware of him, you know what happens? He's not aware of us. The funny thing to say about Hashem. But there's two ways that Hashem interacts with us. One, he's facing us from the front, and one is facing us from the back. That's what the Kabbalists say. Let's say you have someone that you love very much and you want to make them dinner. So you make the most beautiful dinner and you take care of it and you light a candle and you sit with them. Let's say a kid's annoying you tonight and you've told him off all day and he's completely misbehaved. So, you burn the steak and you put a potato on the other cook, you just throw it on the table. Take that, eat it, and go to bed, right? There's a way that a mother serves when she's giving it her heart. There's a way that a mother serves when she's sick and tired. It's the end of the day, the kids have been misbehaving. There's a way that Hashem is Mishpia Shepherd to Klal Yisrael. When Klal Yisrael are turning to Hashem with all their hearts, then Hashem opens up channels of blessing and miracles and love and connection. But when we are unconscious of Hashem, then Hashem moves to be unconscious of us. That's when it says in Gan Eden, when Adam and Eve hid, because they wanted to deny Hashem's presence, they felt because of their shame, then Hashem also hid. because Hashem mirrors us. Hashem silcha. Hashem is a mirror to us. When we ani ledoidi v'doidi li, when we turn to Hashem with love, right? Then Hashem turns to us with love. And when we are unconscious with Hashem, then Hashem is unconscious to us. What does that mean, unconscious to us? Of course, Hashem's conscious of us. It means he doesn't act with deeper love, with deeper hashkafa. So at the beginning of the world, there was this setup. The first part of the setup, it said something about the psycho-spiritual state of their relationship, that they were husband and wife, but they weren't in deep alignment and connection and passion. And therefore, they were interacting from the externality of themselves, but it wasn't in that magical state of flow, which can be transformative, game-changing when they're sharing the inner side of themselves, number one. And number two, it happens to be that that default setting also protected them from negative forces around them. At the beginning of the creation of reality, Adam was here to cleanse the world of negative forces, beings, entities, shindalas, these things. Until man had done mitzvahs, until we'd done mitzvahs, etc., then we had to actually begin to clear the energy around us. And in all my notes, I always write that, well, we'll get there one step at a time. Fine. So then what did Hashem do? Hashem's going to begin the process of moving from acha ba'acha to panim b'panim. They're going to move from being back to back to being face to face. They're no longer going to be back to back. They're now going to be face to face. This is, where else do you see back to back and face to face in Torah? There's another classic place where we have this imagery in the Torah itself.
Keruvim?
Was that?
The keruvim?
Yes, that's right. The Keruvim, the Beit HaMikdash. So they are the physical representatives of these forces. The two Keruvim is actually the two angels. I'll say them out one time: Metatron and Sandalphon. And it's still the same dynamic and energy that when as the Gemara says explicitly, when we were doing the will of Hashem, then the Keruvim, the angels, were face to face. And when the Jewish people were not doing the will of Hashem, then they would be back to back. Now you understand the depth of that, right? You understand? Because not doing the will means out of alignment. And we are out of alignment with Hashem, so Hashem turns out of alignment with us. What does that mean? He doesn't flow to us abundance and blessing. He gives us the minimum we need for survival. But when we turn back to Hashem and ni doidi, then Hashem turns back to me, doidi li. And that light comes in. So that's also the same idea. So you start to see what's happening in the Beit HaMikdash is what's happening in Gan Eden, and the whole model architecturally of the Beit HaMikdash is a model of Gan Eden. So that's not surprising. So you've got Garden of Eden, and you've got Zer and Pin and Nukva, and you've got the two Keruvim. And by the way, when Zer and Pin falls, because it's not giving light to Nukva, to Malchus, and then Malchus falls, or the two angels fall, then there's two forces of darkness which grab them. One is called the Samech Mem, Uncle Sam, as we like to say, and Uncle Sam's wife. I don't want to say her name. It's Lilith. So that's when the masculine falls, he goes to the Samech Mem, and when the feminine falls, she goes to the power of Lil. I don't know why there's all the modern feminists. Well, I actually do. I think it's a fascinating subject, but all these modern feminist Jews like to, they name their magazine Lilith. It's like literally calling your magazine darkness, the forces of dark feminine. It's not like something to be proud of. That's not like the wild, powerful, positive feminine. That's just the forces of a real dark, fallen self. Like the Samech Mem is the force of that man. You wouldn't call your magazine the Hitler magazine. Like you wouldn't call that. It's just a weird thing. It's trying to reclaim something which is really dark, but it's darker than you, and I suggest you don't reclaim it. So with that in mind, that's what's happening with the angels, the Malachim, and the Holy of Holies. It's exactly the same dynamic. And that's the deep secret of when Hashem was destroying the temple. and they saw the temple being destroyed, and they went in the Holy of Holies. What did they see? They see the two angels were actually face to face. It's a very beautiful image. Anyone understand why? When we're doing the will of Hashem, then they're face to face. When we're doing the will of when we're disconnected from Hashem, then they're back to back. So when Hashem was destroying the Beit HaMikdash, we were face to face. Anyone guess? Anyone like to hazard a guess? Used to be a more interactive group. Huh.
Isn't it because in the darkness there's such love?
That's one. But then why are we facing him? That's why he's facing us. Why are we facing him? I think the essence is because, everybody takes things for granted.
Right.
The Navi said 1,000 times, we're going to lose the temple. No, the temple. You didn't want the temple. You didn't want a Kodesh Baruch Hu. You didn't want the Vegas. But we're all kind of asleep behind the wheel. And the second the destruction comes up, our hearts instantly go, no, which is exactly why Hashem's doing it, right? Korban is the same oasis as Chibur. Hashem destroys it and awakens our desire to connect. So I think that once the destruction starts, then our hearts turn up straight away. No, now we realize what we did. Now we realize, and everybody wants to come home. It's not till you lose it that you realize how meaningful it was. And then Hashem's like, then Hashem, I think, is saying, okay, so I'm turning back to you, but it's going to be a process. There's going to be a turning circle right now. So coming back to this key idea, okay, so it says, Ala Adam, so va'achakach hipil Hashem todima ala Adam v'chasach isa mimenu. So this is where it gets interesting. When these two are unconscious, how is Hashem going to turn them around? And the lesson is, he puts the man to sleep. Remember, go look in Genesis, the creation of the woman. Hashem puts the man to sleep. Why does the man have to be asleep to the woman to wake him? So first it says, Al Adam v'chasach oisa mimeno. It's a two-step process. He puts the man to sleep, tadima, shena chazaka, a strong sleep, and he saws off, cuts off, separates her off from him while he's asleep. It's very graphic kind of imagery. Vashlim es binyan gufa ad shenasu shnei anashim nifradim. And then she reconstructs her, sounds almost like Frankenstein, until she's complete and whole as two separate entities, Adam v'Chava. And then she brings her to him. And now they're facing face to face. So one more time. The setup is this. He renders him unconscious. Because he's now unconscious, she separates off. She falls. And once she falls, so first he goes to sleep, and then she gets disconnected. Now she gets reconstructed so that she can turn back towards him complete and whole as one. And then they can meet each other face to face. This is very, very deep and beautiful and fascinating language. As Adam chasach bimenu v'hashlim es habinyan gufa, then you have to build, reconstruct it. Eve was reconstructed from the side of Adam, from the ribs, which really means from the Gevurah energies. They used to have a mix. They're blended in personalities. That's what it says in Kabbalah. It's very sophisticated. I remember, I always find this funny. When I was first giving the class about male female energy at Aish Torah 10,000 years ago, and I was talking about how men and women are different. You've heard me give this class 20 times. Men have these properties, women have these properties. And there's a guy and a girl snickering the whole time, just snickering through the whole class. And just like laughing at the whole thing, like, oh, it's all a load of garbage, none of it's true. It's all a... So finally, they put up a question, put up their hand. I was like, yes, I remember this girl. She must have been 18 years old, secular girl. And she's there with her 18-year-old boyfriend. And she said, Rabbi, what are you even talking about? I've been going up my guy for the last 8 weeks. We're not different. We're totally the same. What's all this men are, women are? We're totally the same. I remember going, we go out for pizza together, we go see movies together. We're like the same person. There's no difference. So I remember the whole class just burst out laughing. Wow, when you're 18 years old and all you can do is eat pizza, what difference is there between men and women, right? And there is a kind of time and period where at the beginning of a relationship, you just like so complete each other and you're so much the same and we want the same things. But once you get into marriage, you fast find out, why did I marry this person? They're totally the opposite. Right. And it's very, very interesting. At the beginning, when you fall in love, you really feel this person is exactly the same as you. We're into the same albums and the same books, and we like the same shows, and we had the same style. Amazing. And then, like 2 years later, you're like, I want to go out, but she wants to stay in. And I like this food, but she hates food. And I like living tour, but she likes living that. It's just like, where does that division come from? So, this is part of the Nesirah, because at the beginning, your personalities are blended. It's a kind of model of attachment because you don't have an individuated sense of self from the partner. And the way that you look to find resonance, which is also, there's a truth to it and a value to it, is by noticing all that you have in common. But when you always have the same things in common, then you have a big problem in the relationship. What's the problem with the relationship? Anyone care to guess? What you find is a successful relationship is not about being the same. If you have someone with the same skill sets with you and the same weaknesses with you, then who's going to help and support each other when you get into issues? I'm very a go-getter human being, and my wife is very present. If my wife was a go-getter too, who would be present with the kids? Who would be present with the family? And when I'm stressed out of all the things I'm trying to do, who would hold me and say, it's okay, and we're here in the present? And my wife is so present, she wouldn't actually do anything in the world. So who's going to remind my wife there's things to accomplish and let's go out of the world and do things? So the depth of a relationship is one dynamic of a relationship is that you want similar resonance because you want them to care about the same things and go on the same journey. But another core dimension of a relationship is that you want them to be completely different. Because when they're completely different, not completely different as in no connection, that's what I call complementary opposites. Right? A knife and a fork are complementary opposites. They complete each other. A knife and an elephant just have no connection. There's never going to be a relationship between them. So unless you're a knife going out with an elephant, and I don't want to say there's anything wrong with that relationship, if it's working for you, fine. You should speak to a rabbi or a therapist to sort that out. Now, coming back to the key point. So at the beginning, it's very interesting Kabbalistically, part of being unconscious in a relationship is being blended, is not knowing who you are. Sometimes in secular relationships, I remember in teenagers as well, couples just hang out all the time and they just get lost in each other. They're not actually doing anything. They're not actually producing something. One of the ideas for me was like the kind of a model of a secular relationship, which is it's someone cool to have a fun journey in life with. But from a Torah perspective, the goal of a relationship is to build something greater than the sum of its parts. To build something great, that's why you do family, or you build community, or you're changing something together. You're making an impact. You're building family. You're creating something and building people that is beyond who the two of you are. And therefore, we want there to be a mother and a father. Right? We don't want them to just be everything's one. We want them to be very, very different in their contributions. So they're expressing a spectrum of depth in many different dimensions. So at the beginning, interestingly enough, all the energies coming through the Malchus, all the energies coming through the Chava, they were kind of a blended version of what's coming from a Zera and Pin, from the masculine. And what they're actually going to do, men and women have two forms of energies. One is Chasadim and one is Gavoros. One is expansion and one is contraction. One is masculine energy, what's feminine energy. Fine, all those things exist. So today you have this very, again, without any judgment, if a woman's working, she's going in there changing the world and she's happy and she feels fulfilled, wonderful. I've got nothing against that. I do have something against women being told that they can't have a meaningful, fulfilled, joyful life being a full-time mother, if that's especially what she wants to do. No, you have to get a college degree in an Ivy League college, be $100,000 in debt, and then you have to be in the same rat race that the men were miserable doing. Why should a woman be dumb enough that she's forced in to do that? If she feels she wants to be a leader and she has abilities, wonderful, go get him. If a man feels he doesn't want to go out there, totally understand it as well. It's nuts out there. Great, just wanted to express that. So with that as well, sometimes you have a relationship of two people wanting to change the world, wanting to make a lot of money. And people tell me, first of all, there's a lot of competition in those relationships. It's very, very challenging. And second of all, well, who is the role? Well, the man says, well, traditionally it's a woman's role, and the woman's very resentful. I also went to college. I also spent a lot of money. I also want to be out there. I don't want to be, stuck at home with the kids, which is totally reasonable. I totally hear it. But then you have this kind of complex power dynamic at home. And then some men say, like, I'm very happy being at home and having with the kids. Wonderful. That's great. As long as but some men are like, no, I don't want that well either. So it creates a very lot of difficult complexity. So Kabbalistically, the man has masculine and feminine energies, and the woman has masculine and feminine energies. And again, masculine energy and feminine energy are wonderful, perfect energies, and we all have both within us. But there's something called hitkalalit for his kashfut. This is a very, very deep teaching. And when you build an organization, it's very deep in Kabbalistic. I would like to write one day a series of classes on organizational leadership based on the Kabbalistic principle of Hitkalalit and Kashut. Somebody remind me, because it would be spectacular, and I haven't seen anyone do anything like this. The secret of Hitkalalit and Kashut, you ready? Is that people's personalities entirely shift based on the dynamic and relationships they're in. People don't talk about this enough, but it's an absolute known Kabbalistic principle. And that means in the house, I have a okay memory, not a great memory, but my wife has a fantastic memory for everything that's ever happened to our children ever, right? So my wife can always say to the 12-year-old, I remember when you came from school in the summer in I don't know what that was, 2012. And I remember these were the words that you said to your sister. And everybody goes, oh, that's great. So mummy becomes the keeper of the memories, right? You know what happens when a mummy becomes the keeper of the memories? Then the father doesn't remember anything. I'm not blaming my wife and I'm not blaming myself. It's because there's a kind of shared memory, and more than a shared memory, there's a kind of shared responsibility. When you say, I can cook, when I got married, I was a pretty good cook. I was a pretty great cook for some things, right? But I haven't been in a kitchen for years because I know my wife is managing the food, right? Now, my wife could make an income. Now, she knows I'm making an income. I'm not talking about the deep psycho spiritual stuff right now. So my wife could make an income, but now she pulls back energetically out of that. So what you find in couples and relationships is both could have emotions, they both could be intellectual, but when one feels that one is taking more of the intellect, the other is more likely to get emotional. And by the way, when one is more likely to get emotional, the other one is more likely to say, whoa, someone has to take the responsibility for the objective world here. So what actually happens is in relationships, couples shift their dynamic and their entire personality based on the sharing of energetic responsibilities. And people over years become very different people. So you should know this is called Hitkalalis Fiskashus, which means the spheres redistribute their powers to create a full system where all the powers are easily working. In family dynamics, when one person says, I'm going to be in charge of the maps, one person is more verbose and wants to speak a lot, then the other child may go more quiet because they don't want to kind of compete with that. When one person is more emotional and taking care of one responsibility, one will be more in our family, more into chumras and details. No, we have to do this. And the other child kind of goes back the other way and kind of says, no, I'm the more loving, acceptive one. It happens consciously, but it happens subconsciously. So there's a redistribution of energies and systems to balance out the whole. So I've seen an elevation, without going into more details than I have, when teams build, people that started to be superstars at one thing, when they see somebody else can do that, they become sometimes incompetent at that same thing and then develop skill sets in other areas because we redistribute the spherat to adapt to having one full system. So while at the beginning, they are both in a place of shared energies of Chesed and Gevurah, what's going to happen is when they uncouple, she's going to take all the Gevurah energy, all the vessel energy, and he's going to take all the light energy, all the Shefa energy. And that's going to slam her like a ton of bricks, hence the Yam Hadin. Tremendous din is going to come on her, vessel, responsibility. And she's going to have to construct herself with that to receive the light. And this is the secret of this Seres Yemei Tshuva. Seres Yemei Tshuva of 10 days of din, 10 days of judgment. She's going to take the light of chesed, understand how it feels to the female. But this is going to be that woman that can carry the creation of life for all of reality. She's going to become the woman in Aim Call High, who's the mother, divine, feminine presence to hold everybody's light. But she needs to step out from under his shadow, and she needs to redistribute and find her light and her power on all the levels. She needs to find her willpower, her intelligence, her heart, her emotional alignment, her boundaries, her loving. She needs to find her sense of responsibility, so she can be a full spectrum female powerhouse to marry Hashem himself. So she steps out from under his shadow and takes all the vessel energy and then reconstructs herself to hold that herself in its light. So first of all, he's going to go to sleep. What does it mean to go to sleep? It means he's rendered unconscious. He's rendered unconscious. When the man can't act like a man, then a woman's not going to stay under him. She's going to rise up and take care of herself. So rendering unconscious. So in the Kabbalistic language, it says Zer and Pen's moichin goes up to Bina and goes up to outside his head. For those that like the Kabbalah, that's what happens. But it means that he loses consciousness. What does it mean that he loses consciousness? He's no longer there for his wife. When a wife finds that the husband is checked out, that's usually what motivates her to step into her power and energy. If your man's the man of the house and he's not a great husband, you still, I'm not saying this is a good thing or right thing. I don't mean to use conjure. You're still going to make yourself subservient to her because a woman just wants a relationship. This is a woman's vulnerability. She wants a relationship more than anything. The core of a woman's identity is relationship, whether it's a husband, whether it's friends, whether it's children. And that's a beautiful thing. That's why we have relationships in the world. Women are relationship focused and loving and compassion, building relationship and building friends. The weakness of that, what's the weakness of that? You know, the beauty of that is not just caring for relationships and wanting relationships, building relationships, but giving yourself for the sake of a relationship and yes, sacrificing yourself for a relationship. The weakness of that is, well, it's obvious, right? That a woman will give herself so much to relationships, she'll lose herself. And more than that, so much to an unhealthy relationship, she won't even be able to choose out of that relationship, no matter how much it's wrong for her. Now, inspired feminists will say, I don't need relationships anymore. That's not what we consider real feminism. The issue is not, I'm going to be harsh and cruel to any man. The issue is you have incredible capacity to build relationships, men don't, and you'll teach them how to do it. But it's not to the point of I was going to say self-sacrifice is a beautiful thing, but suicide isn't. Right? Losing your own values and losing your own sense of purpose and injuring yourself in an abusive dynamic. That's awful. Beyond words. So everyone's greatest strength is a hint of their greatest weakness. Everyone's greatest weakness is a hint of their greatest strength. So the man has to lose his consciousness. He has to lose his power. He has to lose his light for the woman to be born. The fascinating thing from a Kabbalistic perspective, when you see the Me Too movements, I'm sure there's controversy and complexity in that and politics in that. So I'm just thinking about the simple part of it right now, that when a whole group of men are abusive, which is a form of losing your consciousness, not acting as a man, as a mensch, as a true leader with integrity, with spiritual integrity. That's them losing their consciousness to their desire, to their ego, to their dominance, to their sense of dominance and control. Then the women rise up. See, it's a very interesting model. The man has to go to sleep to cause the women to arise. And because a woman often doesn't get herself out from that until something unconscious really happens strongly. And then she steps out and begins to find her own identity. Now, holding in mind that the unconsciousness we're talking is a Bechina of Hashem, something called Zeir Anpin, which means the light in Zeir Anpin is a divine light which is coming out of the higher worlds, and it's ready to pour blessing and life force into her. And as long as he's there, she's going to be attached to him. But even in a decent relationship, there's an opportunity to make that better. Make that better. My wife steps into a new light when I leave. She misses me for a few days when I go overseas, but then, she finds a light, she finds a courage, and she really steps in it. I mean, she's working day and night anyway, incredibly hard to build her family and to help her community. But there's always an interesting thing of when I'm not there, I always watch it and say, we talk about it like this. She just has to step into more, and then she can hold more. The more you have to step into, the more there's no one to support you, the more you have to hold, and the more you find yourself. You do find that resilience, and you do find the confidence. And when there's someone there to tell you, a rabbi in the house to give you to help you make decisions, it's great. But when the rabbi is not there, then you have to make those decisions, and you have to draw on that wisdom. Doesn't mean my wife doesn't make decisions, right? But that's part of it. That's part of it. So the kind of uncoupling and the redistributing and the rediscovering and the reawakening of different parts of ourselves is part of what happens when we lose key members of the infrastructure. Right? When there's a team, elevation team's working incredibly hard right now, to say the least. But when one member is sick or one member goes down, it's a very complex thing, or you actually fire someone or something like that. It's a very complex thing because you don't realize how you're all kind of covering for yourself each time, and you know each other roles, right? And then suddenly there's a whole limb missing. So there's a kind of redistribution of energy. So when the masculine is sent to sleep, then the feminine has no choice but to say, I have to hold more and I have to become a master of myself. And that's when she begins to step into her own light. Is this interesting to anyone? Let's start with an emotional check-in right now. Now I can have about 5 more minutes today, then I have to run. Let's do an emotional check-in. You think there's a reason why the class has gone more quiet in the last few weeks? Is it the nature of what we're learning? Is it you all stopped caring completely and you're just watching YouTube videos?
There's just deep ideas.
Deep ideas. So let's say so deep, so much content, making me sound like Netflix. Are you following it all, Hannah? Is it interesting at all? Thumbs up. So, okay. Very fascinating. It feels so relatable. But we're working. Hi, Hadassah. How are you? Who's Hadassah? Are you new here, Hadassah? Wait, you have to turn your microphone.
Hi, I'm new on this class, but I was by the Mexico retreat.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Welcome, Hadassah. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Interesting for the first day. We do all different things. We learn deep things. We do experiential things. So we move around a bit. Hope it's interesting for you.
Thank you.
Very fascinating. Feels so relatable. Great. What else does anyone have to say? Maybe we'll stop for questions for a minute.
Guess what I catch is so amazing because now, since we're going through the car wash, it feels so difficult. But basically, what you're saying is, which is so comforting, is that we're widening ourselves so much that there's going to be. It's like looking forward to falling in love that much deeper. That's pretty incredible.
I wonder if you can think about it, Nicole, in all the moments of darkness in your life, that Hashem is uncoupling you, so you can pull on something deep and you can return to Him.
Right, in a much more in a real deep way.
In a real deep way. And isn't this just what Rabbi Nachman says, that before you have an aliyah, you go down for your Rita and you collapse?
But when you talk about it like in practical lover terms, then it's that much deeper.
That's why we're doing it, right?
Right.
So, but I'm just saying, so Rabbi Nachman says, before you have an aliyah, you go down. You get a l'sorach aliyah. So everyone's like, yeah, I get that. But now he's talking about this Kabbalistic principle of the Nesirah. This is the double click to understand all of that. And this is the truth with any trauma. When you go through trauma in life and you break your heart, then Hashem's about to open you up, to take responsibility for your heart, to live and grow from that, and to open up whole new possibilities. If you held in mind every time everything collapsed, that you're getting an upgrade to a much deeper sense of self and a much deeper capacity to love and connect, that's the definition of Emunah. That's the definition of Emunah.
But I also actually heard a great concept. I was talking to someone very smart about the Holocaust, and even though Hashem did it out of love, how did He watch it? And he said to me, actually my son, he said to me that there's a concept that when it gets so painful for Hashem, he actually locks himself in a separate room because he can't look. And I found that so awesome.
Right.
Like, because it's just like, it's awesome.
Right.
Anyway,
Beautiful.
wanted to share.
Thank you. Vacha says you're describing the breakdown of my marriage. Am I reconnecting to Hashem? Rabbi Ginsburg says a divorce from marries Hashem. It's very beautiful. Anyone that goes through trauma marries Hashem. Anyone, I mean, they don't, but they can, and that is the tikkun. That's a beautiful way to put it. Great class, taking it all in. Okay, any questions right now? Any questions? So then let us
Yes.
do one more bit.
I have
Please.
one
Yes, sorry, Lisa.
statement. I have one statement. Oh, sorry, Racha.
Racha?
You know,
Could you just
yeah.
give us a definition of
So there's somebody. What's that?
Can you give us a definition of hitkalalut and hitkashrut?
It kalut with his kashrus. That means it means to be interconnected and connected to each other. That interconnected and connected to each other. Hitkalalut means inter-included. So inter-included and connected to each other. Inter-included means that if you have 5 people on your team, there's a reordering and interconnectedness that everybody does psychospiritually. They're connected together, but they kind of reorder and restructure their consciousness based on the energy. What's that?
Which word is which concept?
Hitkalalut, it means inter-included. Hitkashrut means connected.
Okay, thank you.
So once you begin to watch that idea in reality, it's a game changer. This is the secret of Eza Kenegdo as well. The wife is called the Eza Kenegdo, the helper against him. And Rashi says, this is the most fundamental secret about marriage. Rashi says, if he's Zocha, if he's worthy, she will help him. And if he's not worthy, she'll be against him. And all these men that come and crash, my wife just complains about everything. My wife does this all the time. She doesn't help me out there. And the answer is, yeah, well, you're probably not worthy according to Rashi. Right? If you own your stuff and you work through your junk and you're a mensch and you're completely compassionate and present, then energetically she's bound to you. So that can shift her consciousness. It actually swings both ways, you should know, women, just so you know. The other part is kind of true as well. But it's a very, very deep thing that the conscious, she may not know she's doing that, and he doesn't know he's doing that, but their consciousnesses bind, they're included and connected to each other. We should probably do a whole course on that sometime. It's pretty fascinating. Aliza, we'll take these 2 questions, then we're done. My energy is very low. I have to end on time. Sorry, friends. Yes, Aliza?
Well, I just wanted to say that what you said was really powerful for me because I once asked Hashem why he gave me the parents that he gave me were so dysfunctional. Forget about not even religious. And you know what? I had to build myself completely. And even when I was 12 years old and I went to live with my aunt and they didn't have a Hebrew name for me. I had to pick my own Hebrew name. So yeah, I'm so
In your
grateful.
Malchus.
I'm so
Build
grateful
yourself.
it worked out because I'm very proud of how I built myself.
Great. Nechama?
Thank you. First of all, I was there on Sunday and it was fantastic, beautiful,
Oh, wonderful.
very
Thank
special.
you.
So I wanted to ask you, you said at the beginning of the world when Adam and Chava were back to back, there was a certain externality. And until the mitzvahs came, it cleared the energy and they were more connected. Was that Matan Torah? Was that just when
No, it's way before Matan Torah. Adam had to guard and keep the garden. And the garden and keeping the garden are the root of the mitzvahs, aseh, mitzvahs, lo taseh. This is thousands of years before Matan Torah.
Okay.
So the 2 mitzvahs of guarding and keeping the garden was enough, which includes tefillah, if you see Rashi at the beginning, when Adam was created. So that mitzvah itself, even of prayer, was already clearing negative forces and energies around them. So Hashem could begin that process. We'll talk about that a little next time, whenever next time is.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, fine. When is next time? It's not anytime soon, is it? We're not going to see you all till next year. It's not next week. It's not next week. So I think it's the week after next week, 2 weeks. So having a 2-week break, and we'll all be back. I hope to see you all in New York. That I will. I hope this has been an interesting journey for you. Thank you for learning with me over the last year. Pray for me that I have energy and we can have a lot of Etzlach in New York. And to be continued, my friends. Over and out.